Eventually, Guevara's lessons filled me with new confidence. In this world there were realistic ways to promoting goodness, and there were people who had dedicated their whole lives to it. There were the Communist Party members. They were selected from the whole population and given special training set particular tasks to perform. They prepared to endure hardships, even death, if the cause of the working people required it. The party members stood at the social summit, from which human actions could be seen not as meaningless jumbles, but as part of a definite pattern. The party could see farther than the best sniper. That is why every member of the party not only knew the meaning of events, but also shaped them and directed them towards new aims. That is why no party member was ever surprised at anything. The party was there to the working people what the engine is to a train. It led others towards the best goals. It pointed out shortcuts to improvement of their lives, and Stalin was the engineer at the throttle of this train. Guevara always returned hoarse and exhausted from the party meetings, which were long and tempestuous. The party members evaluated each other at these frequent meetings. Each of them would criticize the others and himself, give praise where due, or point out shortcomings. They were particularly aware of events around them, and they often endeavored to forestall the harmful activities of people under the influence of priests and landlords. Through the constant watchfulness, and members of the parties became tempered like steel. Among the party members there were young and old, officers and enlisted men. The strength of the party, as Guevara explained, lay in its ability to rid itself of those who, like jammed or crooked wheel on a cart, impeded progress. This self-purging was done at the meetings. It was there that the members acquired necessary toughness. There was about it seemed immensely captivating. One looked at a man dressed like everyone else, working and fighting as they all did. He seemed to be just another soldier in the great army, but he might be a member of the party. In a pocket in his uniform over his heart, he might be carrying his party card. Then he changed in my eyes, as does sensitive paper in the darkroom of the regimental photographer. He became one of the best, one of the chosen, one of those who knew more than the others. His judgment would carry more force than the box of explosive. Others grew silent when he spoke, or spoke more carefully when he listened. In the Soviet world, a man was rated according to others' opinion of him, not according to his own. Only the group, which they called the collective, was qualified to determine a man's worth and importance. The group decided what would make him more useful and what could reduce his usefulness to others. He himself became the composite of everything others said about him. Learning to know a man's inner character was a never-ending process. Guevara said there was no way of knowing that at its bottom, as in a deep well, there might not lurk an enemy of the working people, an agent of the capitalist. A man had to be continually watching by those around him, by his collective. The individual seemed to have many faces. One of them might be slapped while another being kissed, and yet another go temporarily unnoticed. At every moment he was measured by yardsticks of professional proficiency, family origin, collective or party success, and compared with other men who might replace him at any time, or might be replaced by him. The party looked at the man simultaneously, through lenses of different focus, but unvarying precision. No one knew what final image would emerge. To be a party member was indeed the summit. The path to the summit was not easy, and more I learned about the life of the regiment, the more I realized the complexity of the world in which Guevara moved. It seemed that to reach the pinnacle of a man must climb simultaneously many ladders. He might have already halfway up on the professional ladder while just starting out on a political one. He might have been ascending one and descending another. Thus, his chances of reaching the summit altered, and the peak, as Guevara said, was often one step forward and two steps back. Besides, even after reaching this peak, one might easily fall and have to start the climb all over again. Because a person's rating depended on part on one's social origin, one's family background counted even if one's parents were not living. A man had a better chance of ascending the political ladder if his parents were industrial workers rather than peasants or office clerks. The shadow of their family trailed people relentlessly, just as the concept of the original sin hounded even the best Catholic. I was filled with apprehension. Though I could not remember my father's exact occupation, I recall the presence of cook, maid, and nurse, who would surely be classified as victims of exploitation. I also knew that neither my father nor my mother had been a worker. Would it mean that just as my black hair and eyes were held against me by the peasants, my social origin could handicap my new life with the Soviets? On the military ladder, one's position was determined by rank and function in the regiment. A veteran party member had to obey explicitly the orders of the commander, who might not even be a party member. Later, at the party's meeting, he could change some commander's activities, and if his charges were true and supported by other party members, he might cause the transfer of the commander to a lower post. Sometimes the reverse was true. A commander might punish an officer who belonged to the party, and the party might further demote the officer in its hierarchy. But on the other hand, career officers had more influence than non-career ones. At the same time, party-trained career officers had more prestige in the regiment than those with mere technical training. I felt lost in this maze. In the world in which Gavrov was initiating me, human aspirations and expectations were entangled with each other, like the roots and branches of a great tree in a thick forest, each tree struggling for more moisture from the soil and more sunshine from the sky. I was worried. What would happen to me when I grew up? How would I look when seen through many eyes of the party? What was my deepest core, a healthy core like that of a fresh apple, or a rotten one, like the maggoty stone of a withered plum? What would happen if the others, the collective, decided that I was better suited for some other work, such as deep water diving, for example? Would it matter that I was now terrified of water, because every plunge reminded me of my near drowning under the ice? The group might think that I had been valuable experience, qualifying me to train for diving. Instead of becoming an inventor of fuses, I would have spent the rest of my life as a diver, hating the very sight of water, trembling before each dive. What would happen in that case? How can an individual, Guevara asked, presume to put his judgment ahead of that of the many? I absorbed Guevara's every word, writing questions which I wanted answered on the slate he had given me. I listened to the soldiers' conversation before and after the meetings. I eavesdropped on the meeting through the canvas walls of the tent. The life of the Soviet grown-ups was not very easy. Maybe it was just as hard as wandering from one village to the next, and being taken for a gypsy. A man had many paths from which to choose, many roads and highways across the country of life. Some were dead ends, others led to swamp. The dangerous traps and snares. In Guevaro's world, only the party knew the right paths of the right destination. I tried to memorize Guevaro's teaching, not to lose a single word. He used to maintain that to be happy and useful, one should join the march of the working people, keeping in step with the others in place assigned in the column. Pushing too close to the head of the column was as bad as lagging behind. It could mean loss of contact with the masses, and would lead to decadence and degeneracy. Every stumble could slow down the whole column, and those who fell risked being trampled on by the others.